but like at Trojans Wire, our most read stories have not been about USC or Iowa football narrowly. It's been about UCLA thinking about ditching the Rose Bowl, going to SoFi Stadium, and the dysfunction in the UCLA athletic department. Because most of us who love and appreciate and cherish college football, its traditions, its uniqueness, like, come on, you can't leave the Rose Bowl. Like we know the place needs renovations. We know it needs some upgrades of various kinds, but it's still the granddaddy. It's still grandpa. You got to take care of grandpa. You can't send grandpa to a nursing home. You need to take care of grandpa. But UCLA wants to ditch grandpa, leave the Rose Bowl behind, and go to soulless SoFi Stadium. Of course, the real pipe dream here is UCLA thinking, oh, we go to SoFi, we're going to get more fans. No, your program still sucks. Like, that's why you're not drawing people. When Jim Mora was coaching UCLA a decade ago, they were winning, and they were putting fannies in the seats. People will come if you're good, but UCLA is not good. So UCLA is, as usual, not reading the room. That's why we call them the ruins, right? So, Crash, lots to talk about. And our friend Ethan did write a column about this at Trojans Wire. So we'll put it up on the screen. So one of the ideas, there are a lot of ideas from Ethan here, but the one that really stands out, it's up front in the article, one USC a game a year. And of course, it's not going to be the showcase game. It's not going to be a Michigan, an Ohio State, a Penn State, but something like Northwestern, or, and this is a specific thing that Ethan mentioned in the article, which we encourage you to read at Trojans Wire. Didn't put it up on the screen. Here, let's get up on the screen there. Yeah, so he just says one USC game a year, probably not a premium game, but like there are many things to consider here. There are many ways you can play with this. One thing that Ethan did say in his column is that, this could be a way to revive the in-state rivalries with Stanford or Cal. You play Stanford at the Rose Bowl. Like that would be a very attractive thing. And like it could be a thing where, it's a neutral site game every year. I mean, it's in Los Angeles, but, like you're not playing it on campus at USC, so it could be considered a neutral site, and you do it every year in the Arroyo Seco. Ethan listed a lot of other ideas there. This is, of course, if USC does leave. Should USC at least play one game per season to kind of stake its claim to the Rose Bowl? There are other ideas from Ethan's piece, but Crash, your general thoughts on this whole situation.
With regards to the football thing, Matt, I actually think if USC is if it's a neutral site game, I'm not opposed. But if USC is going to say, oh, we're going to move one of our home games against to the Rose Bowl, absolutely not. And I say that because, I mean, yeah, with UCLA, obviously part of the problem is it's trickier for students to get there. And that's what makes game day so special at USC. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Your home games are at the Coliseum. You just got to walk across Exposition and boom, you're there. The tailgating on campus, like from the row all the way to the parking lots, is incredible. Just that game day scene is incredible. Like, especially like for my parents who, were on campus with me this past weekend for Parents Weekend. And, we went to my brother's frat. He's in ZBT. Then we, walked all the way down and just, you just see all the tailgating, everything going on. You kick the flagpole. It's just so damn special. So I don't think that I don't think you can really take away a home game and move it to the Rose Bowl. I think Ethan, obviously, makes a lot of great points. I do respect his opinion. I think it was a great article. Do not get me wrong. I have a ton of respect for Ethan and everything he's doing both here and with Trojans Wire. But I just don't think you can really take away a game day if USC is going to be the official home team. If it's a neutral site game, like the Rose Bowl puts it on and gets like Stanford or Cal or whoever it is, okay, I can get behind that because it's not USC's hosting it. It's the Rose Bowl that's putting it on. But if USC is going to basically, their administration is going to be like, we're going to move one of our games to the Rose Bowl every year and we're going to be the home team, absolutely not. I think it's just too special. And I think just with the proximity of the Coliseum, which is another iconic venue, by the way, and just how special game day is. You see the Trojan family just come together every Saturday. It's so special. I don't think you can take it away.
In terms of UCLA leaving the Rose Bowl, I mean, if that does happen, like if giving up one home game at the Coliseum is too far, what do you think is the right answer for USC, if anything? Like, how can USC capitalize? How can USC, because there are UCLA donors, longtime season ticket holders who are saying, like, if UCLA does this, I'm done. I'm not re-upping my season tickets. I'm not continuing my donations to the program. So just, assuming that happens and you get like a drain of UCLA donations, like, is there something USC can do to kind of really gain even more of a foothold in LA, or to kind of do something to, you're not trying to make UCLA look bad, but like, you're trying to make yourself look good in comparison? Is there another way that USC can really add to its branding in Los Angeles and Southern California at large?
Well, I think one of the things, so I think if we're sticking exclusively to football, I'm kind of drawing a bit of a line just because I think of how special game days are. And I think it'd be tricky too, especially when you just look at how Power 4 schools are trying to schedule. They're always looking to get 7 home games a year. So especially just with, the 9 conference game schedules, that gets very tricky. And I have heard, obviously, not even regardless of what happens with Notre Dame, which, as we've talked about, I don't think absolutely cannot go away. But even still, part of what makes it tricky having Notre Dame, let me just set the record straight for anyone I don't think Notre Dame should go away. Let me just get that on record there before I go into this. But by canceling Notre Dame, that does allow USC to, schedule home and home with Tennessee or Georgia, and then be able to maintain having 7 home games a year. So I think just throwing the Rose Bowl in there makes it tricky. And we saw that even a couple last year when they faced LSU in Las Vegas. So I think for football, I think it's a little complicated, even if the administration said that, because Power 4 schools generally tend to value having 7 home games every year, especially with how they build their budgets and just everything from what I've learned just learning about college athletics over the last few years. But I thought a smart idea that I can get behind that Ethan had was, what about a basketball game there? Or even like volleyball? One thing he talked about, another article that I read today, was like, he talked about just women's volleyball has sold out against Nebraska. I think you could probably sell out that Rose Bowl for a volleyball game. Especially if it was against Nebraska. And I could probably get behind that. You have more games in a basketball or a volleyball season. And I think that's the way you can really optimize it. And I think if UCLA does leave, the Rose Bowl should be looking at that. And maybe, you make USC like a strategic partner, but they don't have to be your only, I guess client is the word. But they don't have to be the only kind of client or partner in that regard. Like, you can really just look at some of the other schools in the area, just kind of create these big, like, kind of opening season basketball matchups and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but I think just for football, it's just kind of tricky, and it's hard to see USC sacrificing a home game to play at the Rose Bowl. But I could very much see it for, sports like basketball and volleyball, especially where, teams are branching out and playing in other professional venues. Like, men's basketball plays the game at Intuit Dome on Friday, and then women's basketball is hosting South Carolina the day after, like right after the Iowa football game. So at crypto.com arena. So I think there are a lot of opportunities. I just have trouble seeing it for football.
All right. One other part of this, 2028 Olympics, they're going to be, the Los Angeles Coliseum is going to be used for, track and field. There's going to be renovations to the setup at the Coliseum. Right now, it's unknown if the Coliseum is going to be ready for week 1. Now, people are going to say, wait, this is the middle of summer. Of course, no. But the thing is, the reconstruction at the Coliseum for the 2028 Summer Olympics, from what I've read, like, this is not just a thing where, okay, the Olympics end and the Coliseum is instantly going to be football ready. Just the way that they're changing this up, I wasn't in Los Angeles in 1984, but I was alive in 1984, and I remember that the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984 were a success because there was some building, but a lot of it was just using venues that were already existing. Like the Forum hosted, for the Lakers, hosted the basketball, and other established venues like the sports arena, other facilities that were already established for decades in Los Angeles, they were used for various Olympic events. So like the operating expenses and the construction costs for LA 84 were very, very low. That's why those games made an astronomical profit among Olympic games. So in 2028, though, like there's going to be more infrastructure involved, and a lot of USC facilities are being overhauled in and around the Olympic Games. So, given that there's a possibility crash that in 2028 the Coliseum might not be available, like how does that influence potentially the way USC's administration and the athletic department handle this hot potato of doing things at the Rose Bowl and filling the gap that UCLA might be leaving behind? Should that influence USC's thinking for 2026, 2027 going into LA 28?
Well, I think maybe it's like if that does turn out to be the reality, assuming UCLA has left the Rose Bowl and is playing at SoFi Stadium, then yeah, maybe as a 1-year solution, you just are like, you know what, guys, it's just how it's going to have to be this year. We're playing our home games at the Rose Bowl. I think it's like maybe a 1-year thing. You could probably do it, but I don't think it should be like an annual thing. So if it comes to that where it's like, you know what, the Coliseum's not ready, you're just going to do something like what I think Kansas did, where it's like, you know what, I don't think everyone was, obviously it wasn't great that, when they're rebuilding their stadium after they knocked it down, that they, had to play their 2 non-conference games that I think of as a small soccer stadium or something like that. But then they're really smart for their big conference games last year. They played them at Arrowhead Stadium where the Kansas City Chiefs play. So I think it's a smart 1-year solution, but it's like, but if I was a Kansas fan, for example, I wouldn't want to hear the coach and athletic director getting together every year and saying, hey guys, guess what we're doing? We're playing 1 game here at Arrowhead Stadium. Like, I don't think I wouldn't be too thrilled as a Kansas fan. So I think that's kind of the comparison. I think as like a temporary 1 to 2 year thing, you can get behind it, but it can't just become like an annual, like once a year thing. And I know Ethan also did bring up the what Northwestern's done, but it's kind of a similar thing. And I'm not sure if I was a Northwestern fan, I'd want to, keep having a home game every year at Wrigley Field once the new stadium is completed.
It's going to be fascinating to see. And like the litigation, the nasty court battles that seem to be starting between the city of Pasadena and the Rose Bowl Stadium on one side and UCLA on the other side, like this could get really, really ugly and contentious. So like we shouldn't think that like this is all going to be resolved, because this is a lease that goes into 2043. Like UCLA is going to have to pay a very, very hefty sum to get out of that lease agreement, and the city of Pasadena and the Rose Bowl Stadium, like they're not going to let UCLA get off very easily. It's like UCLA has to somehow extricate itself if it wants to play at SoFi Stadium next season. That is anything but a given at this